That's Kapichat! That's Kapichat! That's Kapichat!
Right. Hello. All right.
Hello. Right.
Got a good tea.
Yeah. It was really good, actually. I made, what did I make? I made Cajun chicken. Very nice. Got some Cajun seasoning, olive oil, rubbed it all over my chicken, cooked it.
Just makes me think of caged chicken when you say Cajun. Poor little chickens.
No,
They're free range?
Free range chicken.
That's good.
Lovely.
So we got James then in 5 minutes. He'll be here in 5 minutes. Well, should we hide or
We could
hide, or we could get naked? Should we do that? Should we just sit here naked?
No, let's not get naked. Nobody wants to see it. We could do this.
Oh, hello. What are you doing here?
Snoogans.
Oh, hello.
Snoogans.
Are you an orc?
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 No, I'm an orc.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
My name's Milky. How are you?
I am Silent Bob, and I don't speak because my name's Silent Bob.
Very nice to meet you. You're doing it better than me. It's not covering my face, so it's obvious that it's me talking.
Okay.
Whereas it actually looks like them talking.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Jay. Snoogans. And other stuff.
Yeah, stuff.
I've
I don't know what they say.
I've even got that.
Who's that fella?
It's Buddy Christ. Have you seen Dogma?
Years ago. Don't remember it.
Catholicism, wow, and all that. That's Buddy Christ. That's the new...
What are the toys? What other toys have you got there?
What other toy?
I've seen your bum crack. Just saw your bum crack. Edit it out.
Seen it before.
Smelt it before. Yeah, that's...
Wild Stallions!
Yeah, I know Bill and Ted.
What else have we got? I think that's it. I've got one of your guitars.
Yeah, that's not a toy. It's a serious bit of kit, that.
Serious bit of kit. What else have I got? I've got this. This is a bit of a toy. A little Gretsch Jim Dandy.
Oh, Gretsch. You play a little song for us.
What should I play? I don't know if it's in tune.
Kind of.
Gigging alone at the bottom of the hill, I'm protagonist named Bill. Sets his sights on an acre steel point. All he needs is 13 quarters. Congregated in his hat.
It was really nice.
Beautiful. So when he comes on, so that was a really bad version of Scavenger Type by NoFX.
Oh, I thought you just written it.
I just wrote that song called Scavenger Type by NoFX.
Album 6. That's going on album 6.
It's called in full Scavenger Type by NoFX.
Brilliant. Opening track, album 6.
Yeah, it's actually a closing track of Punk and Drobic? I think it's Punk and Drobic or White Trash, Two Heaves and a Bean. I always get those two mixed up.
Me too.
You don't know them, do you? No. I get them mixed up because they're both really, really good albums. And I would listen to both of those kind of on loop sort of thing, and
Yeah.
I can't really. Yeah. One of
I really
them's-
should listen. I really should listen to some of these albums that you talk about.
You should do. I mean,
We might
Those-
get on better then. Yeah.
maybe. Although, having said that, some of the songs that I then send you that I've recorded, you'll realise that they're actually just rip-offs.
They're all just rip-offs.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Edit this bit out as well.
I don't care. It's fine. It's
Mine
fine.
are all rip-offs as well. I'm using exactly the same chords as what the Beatles used. I used like an E the other day.
Oh my god.
hmm
Unbelievable. He's going to be here in 3 minutes.
3 minutes to kill.
2 minutes.
Wow. What's your first question going to be?
What did you have for dinner?
I think that's a fair question, really. If he's not had dinner yet, though, that'll throw you. That's the only problem.
Gotta have had dinner. 7:15. What was he, an animal? He's either an animal or Spanish if he's not had dinner yet.
He might be Spanish. He does like flamenco guitar.
Yeah, true.
He may be I hope he can speak English. I haven't thought of that. We haven't checked that out with anybody that we've invited on. Do you speak English?
Yeah, we should. Do you want me to ask him? Should I send him a message now?
Do you? No, we'll leave it. We'll leave it. Do you know any Spanish? Just in case.
Sí, hola. It's
That's, that's offensive.
Peace word. Right, shall we? Right, because he's going to be here in less than a minute now. Shall I put these up?
Yeah. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to hide?
Yeah,
I
why not?
don't know.
Just see if we can make it a little bit awkward. Don't say you'll just come up and we don't say anything.
Lack of planning again. Jeez,
We'll get down it.
Okay. There we go.
We're a bit early.
Yeah, just hold it there for a few minutes.
I do J or something. It's so confusing because it's opposite way that you need to move.
Yeah. I'm having trouble with the one.
I'll do J and Silent Bob. You'll know who these are, won't you? Oh my god,
I don't know. If he's Spanish, what do you know?
I think. Oh, wrong way! Up and down, I can figure. But...
I'm not sure we've got longevity in this opening. So, he's in the waiting room. He's in the waiting room. Ready?
Yeah, good.
3,
Good.
2, 1. He's coming in. He's sideways.
He's trumped us here.
He's tricked us as well. Oh no!
Sneaky
Hello.
bastard.
Oh, it's us. It's us.
Oh, every time you trick.
Oh, we fooled him. You are sideways.
Yes. Let me.
There it
good.
is.
That's better.
That's better. Oh, it's
Excellent.
destroyed my backdrop. Oh well. I saw James Silent Bob there.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you must have imagined it.
Mhm.
How you doing?
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Nice
Um,
backdrop. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's lovely, isn't it? It's there's red here as well for a kind of satanic feel,
Is that the
And,
gateway to hell?
and a defunct fireplace.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah,
actually
with
looks like
fairy
your,
lights. In it. It's
looks like
sort
your
of,
log then is
yeah.
actually on fire behind it.
Yeah, very pretty, you know. But just before I start, I better tell you, I've got 2 little dogs, and I live in the middle of the countryside, and you get all sorts of beasties walking down the road.
Right.
So we might have a load of barking, so I'm going to have to grab one of them perhaps. But where I live is like Heartbeat, so you expect Nick Berry to be coming in on his little bike or something. So it's that kind of setup.
Oh. That's aged
Yeah.
our audience.
That is, and
Yeah.
that is a reference I wasn't expecting tonight.
Nick Berry.
Well, it is Sunday evening, and Sunday evenings are connected with that kind of show. I mean, Heartbeat, Ruth Rendell's Mysteries used to come on at 9 o'clock because I was going to bed as a kid. That would terrify me. The opening music, just as I'm getting in bed. Ruth Rendell.
Back in the day, for me, it was Bergerac.
Yeah.
So that's showing my age. Terrible. That always meant you're going to bed.
Yeah.
But in the weekdays, my mum would sing to Coronation Street. She'd say, "Time for your bed. Time for your bed." It was terrifying. I can't watch Coronation Street because of that. Awful.
I'm gonna ring Steve at bedtime every night now and just sing that to him.
Time for your bed. No, I think I need my headphones, and I don't know where they are. Oh well, I'll try without them. But anyway,
yeah, get on. Right, Steve, we've done the same thing again that we seem to do every time. We have people on here and we chat, and then we realise after a while we haven't introduced who we're talking to.
Yeah, we realise we're not actual presenters or interviewers. And
you need writing underneath.
Yeah, well, we could do that, I suppose. Yeah, I'll get my pen.
So,
hold on.
Hang on.
Bear with.
Hang on a minute. Talk amongst yourselves.
I might find my headphones in a minute.
Go for it.
Underneath.
So that man there was James. There he is. He's gone again. James Ships. Your S is bad at the end there, Steve. Just do your S again.
No, they've completely vanished. Who knows where they've gone?
Disappearing headphones. But there we go. Steve is announcing who you are.
So yeah, James Shipsides.
Here he is, also known as Master Harker. Oh, hang on,
Master Harker.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Steve's writing it down for us.
Gloomy, jazz-infused flamenco indie guitar swing.
Master Harker.
Yeah. And also him from Theresa Soundworld. Alternative music blog on Facebook.
That's too long for me, right?
You've
TSW.
TSW.
Now that sounds like an ITV region, doesn't it? TSW. Doesn't sound very good.
Maybe a TV themed conversation tonight then. Also, I believe that Theresa Soundworld appears on Eardrum Buzz Radio. So you are also a DJ on Eardrum Buzz Radio.
Yeah, I was asked last year to start a show and just took it from there really, and it's evolved. So it was just started off originally me talking about a few bands, and now I talk about a few bands from the past and a playlist, which yourselves have featured on, recently. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. But it's always sort of changing, and I just figure out new ideas for the show. So it's nice to do,
Yeah. It's a show that we love. And
do you enjoy that more than your blogs and things like that? Or
it's very different because with the blogs you can just spend as much time as you want. With the radio show you can't keep going over and over and fine tuning it. You have to record it.
Yeah.
But you can't keep going over and over and doing the same thing. Otherwise, it just sounds like a newsreader. You have to be so careful. But with the blog, I can either do things within about half an hour or I can spend days. I mean, I did one article about a year ago. It took me about 3 days.
Right.
It's crazy,
Wow.
My dog's making pig noises. Oi, come here.
What dog have you got?
A chihuahua. I might go and get her and hold her.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Steve, you going to hold your dog?
Professionally chasing around the place, so I'll leave it for now. But yeah, so doing that. Also, occasionally writing for Backseat Mafia as well, who are established music website who do music of all genres. They cover alternative music and the mainstream as well. So I do things for them.
Yeah.
As and when really.
So I think it's Steve, you found James, didn't you, about a year ago? But was it a year ago we figured out?
Yeah, I think when I was looking for sites to review Fuzz and the Felt stuff, I was initially attracted by the fact that it's called Theresa Soundworld. being a
Yeah.
Sonic Youth fan, that kind of pulled me in because it's obviously a Sonic Youth song as well. So I presume it's named after that, unless it's an amazing coincidence.
Yeah, that's what it's named after. Yeah, and that's exactly what it's to do. To so it's saying that's the kind of music, or alternative music at least. Yeah. So
exactly. And then we've had contact. I think you did a review of some Fuzz and the Felts, and you've done some reviews of Das Kapitan stuff in the past.
Yeah, you were on my punk day as well about a year ago. I did a punk day.
Yeah,
that was quite a thing. That was amazing doing that. Oh my God!
Tell us
I even
about
did live stuff as well. That was crazy. It was good though. It was nice, but a lot of work. It was all day long. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. You also helped me out with. We did the charity compilation.
That's right.
Campaign Against Living Miserably.
Yeah.
Now called Music Against Living Miserably, where we got loads of bands together, including yourself or Master Harker.
Yeah.
Das Kapitans, Fuzz and the Felts, Ice Cream Headache, Petrol Boys, all sorts of bands we had playing on that, and that was to raise money for, let's say, Campaign Against Living Miserably, and it seemed to work quite well. We got quite a bit for that, and passed it on to them, and it was a good album in the end. Really good album.
Yeah, it's really, really nice album, and anyone watching, just go and have a listen. Because it's great. I mean, it's hard to think that I'm on an album with Magoo. That I used to go and see in the 90s. So I was grateful to be included. It was great. It was a brilliant experience.
Yeah, no, that was good. In fact, that's still available on our Bandcamp site.
Yeah.
Thing is with Bandcamp, if people buy it, you can't really then take it off of the site because it's in people's collection. As soon as you take it off, people who've bought it, it comes out of their collection. And so so that's going to be on there
indefinitely. Yeah.
So tell us, James, where did your love of music come from? Where did it all start for you?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier. I mean, if I take it back to when I was a really little kid, that was in the 70s, and I just came from a very normal family. They were an art family. But as far as music went, like everyone's mum and dads, they're just into what was in the charts. No one was. It's like a bit of a myth that you had hippie parents in the 70s and things. Everyone's mum and dad were just into Elton John or whatever it was. But I remember disco music being around a lot, and I remember my first Christmas day. I can remember Boney M being at #1 in 1978. So little things like that really remind me of music.
Yeah.
And my sister, a few years older than me as well, was always playing me music, getting me into music into the 80s. She bought a lot of records, again, all mainstream stuff, but it gave me an idea of what music was about. But the actual, something a bit more deep-rooted with the guitar, specifically the classical guitar, was during that 70s time and into the 80s, sort of repeats of things. There were kids' programs that had real hippie, weird presenters on it and strange classical guitar music playing, a really ethereal stuff. And that really stuck with me. And they were obviously hippies who'd gone to drama school, were way above average guitar players and singers, and they do this amazing, haunting music. And it just stuck with me, and I loved it. And also, classical guitar was trendy in the mainstream in the 70s, things like The Deer Hunter, that movie, the theme tune to that, Kapichat, by John Williams. So that kind of turned me on to that. But to be honest, in the 80s, when I was at school, I was more into drawing, my art family. I was into like comics, 2000 AD and things like that. So I'd draw dystopian comic strips and spend all my time doing that.
Wow.
But I kind of got into music properly, probably when I was about 16. Yeah. And that was initially, my sister had a tape of rock music, like things I hadn't heard before, like Van Halen and AC/DC and Motley Crue. So that kind of hinted to me that there was something else, although that's, they were very much in the public consciousness as well. That gave me a hint that there might be something else there. But I think going to sixth form college, my friends all getting into different types of music, I just independently got into different music, and we all it's like a big melting pot of all different stuff we're into. We used to tape off albums for each other. One of my friends got me into thrash metal like Slayer and Metallica, Anthrax, and also baggy music like Stone Roses, Happy Mondays, that kind of thing. I kind of got into Pink Floyd on my own, but I'll go into that in a minute because that's like a big turning point. But you know, I just bought things blindly, like all their psychedelic Syd Barrett albums. So I didn't really know what I was setting myself up for. But R.E.M., Velvet Underground, The Doors because of that movie with Val Kilmer, you know, that kind of thing. That was that era. Nirvana, Soundgarden, just different things, different styles. But with the Pink Floyd thing, their first album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, it almost like recalibrated my brain because it's so off the wall.
Yeah.
And then Source Full of Secrets, the second album, that it made me, I think, more open to music completely. Okay. So about a year later, I started getting into bands like Sonic Youth because I found it, although I found them, you know, Sonic Youth, when I first looked, my God, they hit me like anything. I was ready for them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What Sonic Youth was you first got into?
So with Sonic Youth, it was really weird because round about that time, 91, 92, I was reading lots of the music press, the indie press, the metal press, that kind of thing. And I actually read a copy of Metal Hammer, and it had Iron Maiden on the front, but they had a review of Dirty by Sonic Youth. Okay. And it was such a well-crafted article. It really drew you in, and you just thought, oh God, I've got to hear this band. So I went and bought the album, and it's like nothing like the reviewer had described, but it just hit me. I just thought, this is insane music. But then it just meant that I got into so much more music. And you know,
well, I think the Dirty album, I think that's the most accessible of all of the Sonic Youth albums, in all honesty. That was the first one that I got into. I first heard Sugarcane, which was on a compilation called Rocks Off, which had Primal Screen, Ugly Kid Joe, all sorts of things like that. But the one standout song was Sugarcane by Sonic Youth. And then from there, I bought the album of that. And then I ended up with 20, 30 albums of theirs altogether.
Yeah, I know. It's bizarre. But, you know, I went to university, and then again, that was like masses of, you know, different music people were into. People got me into old school punk like Sham 69 and bands like that, and also hardcore punk later on, Fugazi and Minor Threat, and lots of indie. You know, there was loads of indie going on, loads of grunge, Mudhoney, bands like that. And then sort of halfway through my university life, Britpop happened as well, so I kind of was into that to some degree, probably more Blur than Oasis, if you had that kind of camp. But also I was into those sort of bands that didn't really fit into Britpop, like Suede and the Auteurs, who were more glam orientated and more androgynous and didn't really fit in with, I suppose, if it's not too derogatory, the sort of lad culture, you know, it didn't fit in with that. But lots of different stuff. One of my friends called Martin, if he's watching, he got me into so much stuff that has paved the way for other things like Ween and Mercury Rev, Dinosaur Jr., Galaxy 500, all those sort of bands. But also what was interesting at the same time was my friends that didn't go to university were developing their own music taste and getting into bands and things and playing their own music. And then they got me into stuff when I'd be returning for the holidays. They'd visit me in you know, university, and they'd bring new bands that I hadn't heard, like Buffalo Tom and The Levelers and all bands like this. And you know,
I think around that time when you were at university, I think I was 15, 16 at that time, when I was really, really getting into music with Britpop and all the British bands coming through. I think it was such an exciting time for music, because you were getting all these smaller bands suddenly being on top of the pops and things like that as well. You'd get Menswear on there, who hadn't even had a single out yet, on top of the pops. And you'd have the Enemy and Melody Maker, you'd have Q Magazine, Select Magazine. You'd just be bombarded with bands suddenly. I mean, this was before internet still, but I remember it was just everywhere you looked, it was talking about bands, and it was just becoming such a, in a good way, such a mainstream thing, because it was so accessible for all these bands.
I was going to say about the mainstream, because in the early 90s, I would go to indie clubs, and they'd play things like Nirvana and Rage Against the Machine, heavier stuff, and sort of British stuff like Grebo things like, you know, Ned's Atomic Dustbin, bands like that. So it was really loud, and you'd have vicious mosh pits, but everyone would be good-natured. Now, when Britpop came along, it was pretty exciting to start with, but I can remember moving from London back to home, which is Portishead near Bristol, and then going to indie clubs in Bristol, and it was gradually getting a bit of a rougher crowd, and you know, where it was just almost like going to a mainstream club with indie music. So I ended up going to a lot more punk clubs and 70s clubs as well, because they felt safer, you know, playing disco music, which again was from my childhood, so it's almost like full circle. But during as college as well, I was in bands where we'd muck about a bit. I couldn't really play guitar. You know, I'd forgotten how to sing. I hadn't practiced singing since school. And we were just in bands where you just spend a day making a load of noise in halls and taping it on a cassette player, and just doing improvised stuff, and occasionally borrowing a friend's guitar, working out some chords. But it wasn't until I was at a university that I properly knuckled down and started doing the playing, you know, the guitar and everything.
So we've seen your vinyl holds, which you often do on Facebook and Instagram. You clearly have a very impressive selection of vinyl. Do you remember the first one that you purchased?
No.
No. That ruins that feature then.
No, but I remember when it became just from a handful of stuff to proper full-on vinyl junkie, because it was weird living in London. I didn't really know any secondhand record shops or anything like that. And when you'd go to places like Virgin Records in the middle of London, it would all be cassettes and CDs, and you know, it was just like a sort of weird sort of situation that. But moving back to Bristol, there were absolutely loads of secondhand record shops, and one of my friends worked in one, and I just started buying. You know, I used to spend. I was a care assistant at the time, living at home, no responsibilities, and I used to spend a lot of my wages on records. You know, and that's where it started. Buying fanzines and hearing about bands, you know, and I think I got into just loads of punk bands and loads of obscure indie bands and that kind of thing. My thing for a while was buying lots of 45s, you know, but gradually I got into jazz and funk and all different things, because, you know, with that record shop culture, you just start hearing other stuff, you know, and you think, oh, that sounds good. Or you do impulse buys and usually get it right, you know.
So you've listed off basically every single genre of music there over the years that you've kind of listened to, been exposed to. Is it still the case that those are all the kinds of music you still listen to? You're still open-minded about every single kind of music?
Yeah, definitely. And I always go back and listen to what I was into. You know, the last 20 years, I've got more into classical music and flamenco and things like that. And that comes out of my guitar playing. But again, that's an extension of those childhood sounds I heard on kids' programs. But yeah, just totally open to anything, really. I suppose the only sticking point with me is dance music, because it has to have an edge for me. So, you know, a lot of my friends were into rave in the 90s and that kind of thing. And when I was at university for the second time, all my friends were into dance music, and I was the only one really into alternative music. So
there's a fair amount of the dance music, especially in the 90s and early 2000s, I suppose, which could be classed as the alternative kind of thing. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Twin, Square Pusher, anything on Warp, essentially.
And that's like they almost went into different subgenres. You know, like it's like the Prodigy. I don't really see them as a dance band. You know, when I saw them once, I think in Chelmsford or somewhere, you know, V97, it was more like a big punk gig. It wasn't like a dance thing, you know. Dust Brothers, Chemical Brothers, Orbital, you know, they have to have an edge really for me, you know. So it's, you know, sometimes I just think I prefer a more organic feel perhaps, you know. But And also, you know, with my blog, I reference mainstream music, but it's not something I particularly enjoy because it's not being a snob, but you sometimes just see through things and you see things as product. And you might have respect for the artist and think someone like Gary Barlow, yes, he can sing really well and stuff. It just isn't for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's all fairly formulaic and kind of there's a tried and tested formula that they're going to, which they know is going to sell. And essentially, if they're a big name like that, I would say that they're selling. They could do any song and still sell it and become number one. It doesn't seem to be any kind of.
Well, Take That did a cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit, didn't they? That's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
So when did you get into the kind of the blogging side of things? When did that happen? Were you writing fanzines well before the internet came along, or is it more recent?
Not at all. Not one bit. I'd given up on any writing after school. I'd given up drawing as well. I'd given that up because I found it too frustrating, and decided to play guitar. So I was just doing that and playing in bands and things. So the blogging only really came about last year, the writing.
Oh, really? That recent?
Yeah.
Was that a reaction to the changes in the world with COVID, or would it have happened anyway?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah. I mean, I suppose the genesis of it was about 7 years ago. I was getting my name about a bit with Master Harker. Mm-hmm. And back then, even with, you know, it happens now, there are certain genres of alternative music that seem to be more popular at certain times. So at the moment, it's shoegaze and dream pop are really popular. Back then, in about 2014, it was more lo-fi acoustic guitar players, anti-folk it used to be called. So I was in amongst that, and I used to get on radio shows and things like that. And there was one DJ, and she was brilliant. She got me on her show every time I released something.
Oh, that's good.
And then she invited me to do an edition of it.
Right.
So I just got a big load of artists. It was, you know, massive playlist. And I did a spoken intro like you would have heard on my radio show now with her guidance. You know, that was her. That's all her giving me guidance really on that. So I just did an intro, and then I thought, right, I can either just put that out there and say, you know, I've done this show, or I can kind of create a community around it. So I tagged in all the bands that I included, contacted them all, told them what I was doing, said, can you please post it? Can we get everyone listening to each other's music? And it worked really well. So that kind of created that.
People don't do that.
Yeah, it kind of created that sort of seed. And a few friends of mine were saying, oh, you should do writing, you should do DJing, but I didn't really think anything of it. But fast forward, like you said, to the COVID times, I just started doing it because, you know, like everyone else, stuck here. I'm on my own with 2 kids. And yeah, I just started doing the Theresa Sound World. And it was initially just really for me and close friends who were in different bands together or mates bands or reminiscing about old music. And it was very different to how it is now. It was just a way of doing that. And I sort of say anecdotes, you know, like you were saying anecdotes the other night in your first video about your bands. It was a bit like that. Yeah. But then I received a message from a Mexican sort of gothy dream pop band called Sexores, who were really amazing. And I couldn't quite believe it. They just said, can you do a review of our album? I said, yeah, sure. And that's what started that. It just kicked it off.
It's a double-edged thing that I find this, because it's so anyone can do a podcast. They can go on anyone can write an album on the computer. Anyone can release it on Spotify for free. It's so many people can do it. And so many people are doing it that at times you feel it's becoming saturated, I think. And that although we can access so many cool things now, we can find you and get in touch with you and have a conversation with you. It's absolutely fantastic. But at the same time, there's a lot of people fighting for that attention. And so I think, I don't know if you ever feel this, but sometimes as a band, we can sometimes think, oh, we're a bit lost in all of this. We've got something really cool here, but we feel a little bit lost. And I think we have to check ourselves sometimes to not get too lost in that feeling. I think that's quite a new feeling to have with how the internet is now and how easy it is to do everything. I think as humans, that's quite a new thing for us to deal with. Is this? We're doing something cool, but everyone can listen, but no one's listening. Why is that? Does that? Yeah. I'm rambling on a bit. Is that something that you've ever had with your kind of podcasts and your blogs as well?
Yeah, it happens all the time. I mean, it does happen where sometimes people don't, listen to it or read it. But I find as long as I've crafted it in a certain way, it will get to people. So I take incredible, silly, not risks, but I do things that are a bit cocky, I suppose, like tag in famous bands on Twitter and things like that. And it pays off sometimes, and journalists and people like that. And it gets round. They retweet it. I very early on, over a year ago, I did a piece on Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth, and I tagged her in, and she retweeted it and everything, that kind of thing. Happy Mondays, with the wedding present. There was even Mike Azarad, who's a journalist at Rolling Stone magazine. He was talking about me and that kind of thing. And it's because you take risks, because you realize that it's just all there, and unless you kind of put it out a bit, it's going to vanish,
Oh yeah.
And when I was more active doing the Master Harker thing a few years ago, I noticed that lots of bands were getting so frustrated. And it's probably because they were not thinking, right, how can I market myself? Because with you guys, you're thinking of different ways of getting your stuff out there.
Yeah.
You're thinking outside the box. And with me, it was hashtags, tagging in other bands, that kind of thing, taking risks.
I think there's so many people out there who are not doing that. I don't think they're not trying to kind of thinking outside the box a little bit. Just the basic things like they're not tagging people, they're not on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff. So no, I think like you, we're trying to do the same as you. Just do something a little bit different that hopefully doesn't come across as kind of arrogant in any way at all.
That's
or
right.
that we're pushing ourselves too much. Just try and do something a bit different, because I think like you, we believe in what we're doing, and I think you do as well, James. I think it makes you feel good. I think what you do, by the looks of it,
definitely,
and you believe in it as well. So why shouldn't we push it?
Yeah, it's like I look at what other people are doing, and you just think, what can I learn from that? So when I was doing the Master Harker stuff a bit more, I chose some bands and used them I chose successful indie bands, but DIY bands, I mean. And I'd try and chart how they'd become successful, and I'd analyze them. And it was usually social media, connecting with people, doing things that people might enjoy, funny videos, live versions of things, giving people what they want, that kind of, and just trying to figure out how have they got successful, and at the moment I'm not. How does that work? And you need to spend a bit of time with it. I think a lot of people just think they can put stuff out there, and then they wonder why no one listens to it. I just have to grab a dog a minute. Hang on.
Go for it. Steve, trying to grab it. You up?
A message just came up again.
What did it say?
About the extending the minutes.
We're going to get kicked off. Is it okay?
No, they extended it.
Okay, cool. That's fine.
Again, Dr. Zoom is looking at us, watching this video and enjoying it.
He is. I thought we'd get cut off.
Good,
that is good.
Yeah.
Dr. Zoom is a Kapichat's and Master Harker fan, clearly. So we can't not mention your most recent collaboration, James. With a band called Das Kapitans.
Yes.
On our acoustic album. Tell us about that one. What have you done for us?
Well, I just listened to your music over and over again, and I thought I could rework one of your tunes as a flamenco, weird Nick Drake dancing my hands around the fretboard song. So that's exactly what I did.
You certainly did. It was Sorry, Steve, what?
So you've not heard the final version of it yet, have you?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh,
so I'm looking forward to that.
So you picked the song. It was from the. I lose track of what album they're from, but I think it's from Blah Blah Blah, isn't it?
Yeah.
Function Junction. What was it about Function Junction, if you don't mind me asking, that you thought you would pick?
It's the rhythm, because you know, it's like, as every guitar player knows, it's not all about lead guitar, is it? It's all about the rhythm. And I could hear a rhythm, a pulse in my head, and I immediately thought flamenco, because flamenco is the closest, it's the punk of classical music. You know, none of the flamenco players could read music or anything. They couldn't even read or write. They just did their thing, and it was all about the attitude and
absolutely, yeah,
the attack. And I heard that in that song. And I also heard other things like the specials in there and ska music, but I just thought, well, ska music, horns, mariachi, different connections in my head. And it just sort of evolved like that.
It never started out live with any thought of being the ska or the specials, but once it got to that middle section and I started writing that middle section, that's where my head went to as well. Initially, when I started writing the first riff, in my head, I was hearing For Tomorrow by Blur. When I listen to it now, I can't hear that at all. But that's where it started from, was that kind of riff, really. So no, it's interesting how a 3-minute song can just evolve so much as you're writing it, but then also it takes on a new lease of life when you get your hands on it with your flamenco guitar as well.
Well, at the start, you can hear me tapping, and that's not just an affectation. That's actually something I do unconsciously. Like, my hands are warming up and they're actually playing the rhythm that's in my head. It's called tambour, you know, where you're expressing yourself through just whacking your guitar. And it's weird. It just, you know, you can da 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 da, and that's the rhythm in my head. And it's
so
weird.
It's a great feeling to have people doing covers of your songs. It's really good.
Yeah.
We'd encourage anybody to cover any of our songs if they want to, if they like them. But it's
I've done things before in the past. There was a sort of folk punk band that I'm really friendly with. I know them in real life as well, called Crywank, and I did a instrumental jazz version of one of their songs that they liked. And also another guy called Ironwork he does stuff that sounds a bit like New Model Army, you know, kind of sort of folky, punky stuff again, but more electric. And I did like a kind of spaghetti western version of his, you know, because you just hear stuff, you know, you hear stuff in there that the writer can never hear.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how other people can interpret your song. It's brilliant. Like I say, I didn't really.
It was a pleasure to be involved. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing the end result.
It is, yeah. It is on next month's album, out April the 30th. It's definitely on there, and it's been fully mixed and it's ready to go.
Fantastic.
So, thank you for doing that. We really do appreciate you taking the time to do it. We really do.
Yeah.
Just quickly, while we're talking guitars a little bit, I guess, is it just classical guitars you've got? Do you play other style of guitar? Have you got an electric?
Well, just going back in time to when I first got my guitar. My first guitar was an acoustic, and then I got an electric, like just I think it was like a Gibson copy with a distortion pedal, and always used the two for years in bands, either an acoustic or electric. And then I just ditched the electric, and I haven't played an electric for years. And now it's moved from acoustic to an actual flamenco guitar. I did play classical for a bit, but it was always clunky, and I didn't realize that a flamenco guitar is set up more like an electric guitar. So that's why I can do the stuff I do. So really, I just play the nylon string one. I've got a hybrid nylon electric as well, which is really weird. That's a strange story. I had an idea of my perfect guitar and designed it, and cut up a load of old guitars and bolted it together, just to see what it would look like. And it's like, it was a hybrid between an acoustic, an electric, semi-acoustic, and a flamenco guitar. And I thought, this can't possibly exist. Looked for it for about 10 years. And then finally, I found it in that, remember on your previous video, the chap was saying about the bass from that German company.
Yeah,
I found that they made one of those. So I actually had this guitar that I'd designed, and that someone else had beat me to it. So I've got one of those now, and it's nuts. It plays like an acoustic, like a flamenco guitar, like an electric guitar, all in one. So weird. So in my last album from a couple of years ago, I did use that, but my go-to one is my flamenco. You know, I can just do anything with that. But yeah.
And are you still writing? Do you write quite often?
I go through really weird phases. Before the last album, which was 2 years ago, I had like a 4-year gap. You know, I've had things like 7-year gaps where I can't actually write anything, but I still practice guitar every day, and that's why I do the forms. You know, like I have written some songs, but I haven't pulled them together yet. You know, the last album took me about 2 or 3 years to put together. I'm a slow worker, so I have got some ideas, but yeah, I try and do them, but it's slow moving. And I find the happier I get, the less creative I am. Okay. So I'm in a period where I'm actually quite happy with my life. Okay. So I'm less creative. It still means I can do the writing, still means I can play guitar and do things like, you know, collaborations with, you know, you guys or whatever. But my songwriting ceases up.
Okay, well, it's good. It's good that you're happy.
It's sort of darkness feeds it. It's terrible, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's really so weird, isn't it?
How do you? What's your recording setup when you do? Do you record on the computer? Have you got?
No, I'm really old-fashioned. I've just got a 4-track, and I just record everything and do it by ear.
Yeah.
And then mix it by ear, old-fashioned way, twiddle some knobs.
I like that. I had a album sent over to me the other day from by Neil, who's an Ice Cream Headache, but he's also he's doing a solo project called Cliff Hazard, and that's all done on the 4-track. In fact, here's a CD now. I'll show you. Best cover you'll ever see.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
It's brilliant. The songs such as "Sweaty Horny Morning," "Blue Balls," "The Perv," but it's absolutely an album. It sounds
that sounds like what's his name? What was his name? Electronic kind of artist guy. Really weird. Oh God, I can't remember his name. He did "I'm a Pervert" and songs like that.
Yeah. We're going to be
sexual jealousy. He did that. Momus. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be interviewing Neil in a couple of weeks, and so we'll find out exactly what those songs are about. We might regret asking, but
we'll see what's going on in his head.
Yes.
So, a couple more things, James, just to want to cover off, if you don't mind, before we get back on with your evening. So you've got listening to music, you've got buying music, you've got the blogging, you've got the songwriting, you've got the writing. Which bit of it do you most enjoy?
All of it, I think. You know, but it's a difficult one because I have to be. It's not even being in the right mood, but I need to be in the right creative space to do any of it. Mm-hmm. So today, I've been wanting to write a piece all day long. Yeah. But I haven't been in the place for that. I've been thinking about tonight, now. So I haven't been able to do that. I'll do it at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning or something. But I do enjoy it all, but it has to come naturally. So I enjoy it when it comes naturally. I can't force it, you know?
Yeah. No, so, we're the same as well. I know we do work quite quickly and we write quite quickly, obviously. But we'll often text each other and go, it's not happening today. It's just not working. And we just have to give up, don't we, and leave it for a couple of days and just some. You can't force it, can you?
I got a problem now with age where I got trigger finger. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, where your hand just freezes, and it's from years of playing flamenco guitar, and your hand freezes.
Really?
And you just have. I've got a hand brace for it and everything. You just have to rest it for a bit, and then it works its way out.
Oh yeah.
But I developed this crazy rhythm hand, and it's age. You know, terrible. So sometimes can't do that.
Yeah, well, don't you cause yourself an injury? Yeah.
Well, no, I just play bass when that happens. So.
Yeah.
Bass players.
Yeah. Bass players. Oof, yeah. So what moving forwards then, James? We've covered a lot there going backwards. What are the plans for you then over the next year as we hopefully get back to normal a little bit? Are you going to get to gigs again, or what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to go and watch live music. I've already got tickets for a gig that's been delayed until next year. It's been delayed by almost 2 years. But yeah, get back to that. Get back to going to festivals, that kind of thing, as much as I can. And just continuing on with the blog, same thing, evolving that, doing more of the radio show, that kind of thing, and doing my own music. But, that just has to, when it's ready, so it's a continuation, but looking forward to being able to go out and watch live music, I suppose,
What's the gig that you got to? What gig is it that you got tickets for?
Oh, it was Dean Wareham of Galaxy 500.
Right.
And he's playing Galaxy 500 tunes, But that was in quite a small venue in Bristol, which would be nice and intimate.
Yeah.
And brilliant. But yeah, just wasn't happening because of COVID. So.
So you're from Bristol originally, right?
I'm from Portishead originally, just outside Bristol. And then lived in Bristol for 20 years, and now I've moved over to the Forest of Dean.
Okay. I used to when I was 2, I think, for a year and a half, something like that. We lived in Clevedon, which is
that's where I was born. Yeah, that's
really?
where I was born. Yeah. So our paths may have crossed.
They may have done when I was
running around in my Action Man T-shirt or something next to you.
I honestly remember nothing at all about it because I think we left there when I was about 3.5. So it's
So I've moved from the home of Massive Attack in Portishead and everything to the home of EMF. Okay, that's all the Forest of Dean has, really, I suppose. Yeah, EMF.
That's more than we have. We don't have much over here in Norfolk. There's not much we can talk about really in terms of. Even the darkness. We're from Suffolk, just over the border. Ed Sheeran, Suffolk. We can't even claim to have Ed Sheeran in the darkness.
Suffolk, isn't it?
Oh God!
Duck and Punches. They're from Norwich. Do you know Duck and Punches?
Yeah.
They're
good. Cousin the Phelps as well. They're kind of local. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that band.
Yeah. So no, thank you, James. Thank you for today. Thank you for playing our music, to listening to it, to talking about it, and hopefully we've got many more years to come of sharing our work and ideas and conversations. Excellent. And it's been absolutely brilliant. Where can people find your stuff, please, James? Can you let everybody know?
Well, like for the Theresa Sound World, it's mainly out of Facebook, so go there. But I've got Instagram presence, Twitter, YouTube, Tumblr, everywhere really.
You're everywhere.
And same with Master Harker on all the usual platforms, So, so out there.
Amazing. Well, yeah. What do you reckon, Steve? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
About that, isn't it?
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So we'll do a pretend goodbye now for the sake of the video, and then we'll hang on for a minute and we'll do a proper goodbye.
Yeah.
Here's the pretend goodbye. Bye. Bye.
That's Kapichat. That's Kapichat. That's Kapichat.